Good
Okay.
afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today we have Chandra Splond on our channel today. Welcome, Chandra.
It's Chandra, but thank you. Thank you
Chandra.
so much for having Chandra.
Okay. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, my name is Chandra Sparks Splond. I'm an author, blogger, editor, and speaker. I've been an author since 2007, so I published 16 books, including my latest two. My latest one is called Get It Together. It's a young adult novel. And then my other one is for adults. It's for the new adult market, and it's called Pass It On. As I said, I also blog. So I blog. My blog is called The Book of Splond, and I help women to balance faith, family, and fiction. In addition to that, I'm also an editor. So I've been an editor for about 25 years, doing book editing for about 20 years. So I've worked with New York Times, USA Today, and Essence best-selling authors, as well as aspiring and established authors. So I've been very blessed.
Oh, okay. And what is your genre?
I write in mainly for teens and tweens, but recently I've started kind of dabbling in the older market. So I've done a few books for the new adult market. So for ages 18 to 30.
Okay. Do you think you could write in any other genre?
I might do something for adults. The one I'm working on is for adults. We'll see when it actually comes out, and I have ideas for a few other books in different genres. So we'll see what happens.
How long have you been in the literary business?
I would say as an editor, probably for 20 some odd years. It's probably longer than that at this point. I think I started in 97. So what's that, 23 years?
Yes.
As an author, I've been doing it since 2007. So for 13 years.
Okay. Okay, now we can talk about your books that you have.
Okay. My latest book is called Get It Together. It's the story of 15-year-old Alexis Jefferson, who is getting ready to celebrate her 16th birthday. And all she really wants for her birthday is an amazing party and a luxury car. But after she makes some not so wise decisions, her party plans they're in jeopardy unless her dad insists that she has to volunteer at a nursing home. In order for the party plans to go through. So what she finds is that, a lot of her thinking and priorities are jacked up. So she finally starts to realize that maybe the best gift she can give herself for her 16th birthday is to get her life together. So, and then in my book, Pass It On, which I said is for the new adult market, so ages 18 to 30. The main character is 25-year-old Reese Williams, and Reese got pregnant her senior year of college. So what she's been doing for the last few years is raising her daughter, and she's been in a not so good relationship. So she finally finds the courage to leave, and finds that maybe the best thing she can do is for her daughter is to pass on the gift of a better life. So what she does is start to she decides to go back to school. She decides to do whatever she needs to do to make sure that her daughter can have a good life. So, pass it on.
Okay, how do you feel about reviews?
Reviews are fine. I think reviews are more for readers than for authors. I really try not to get caught up in them. Because it's only someone's opinion. Everybody's not going to love your work, so you can't let reviews stop you as an author from doing, what God has put you on earth to do. And for me, he has me I'm supposed to write books. So if somebody doesn't like that, of course, I'm human and it kind of hurts, but I can't let that stop me from doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And just like there's somebody who might not necessarily like your books, on the other hand, they're going to be some people who absolutely love it. So those are the people that I'm speaking to, who I'm supposed to be reaching.
Okay. When did you know that you wanted to be an author?
I've known that I wanted to be an author since I was 14 years old. I remember sitting in math class one day, and I kind of thought about it before then. There are two instances that kind of come to mind. One is when I was around 14, sitting in math class, and I remember back then, I'm probably telling my age, we used to have to head our papers, put your name on there, whatever class, and the date and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember as I was writing my name that day, I was like, I remember thinking to myself, oh, well, if I'm gonna be an author one day, I need to make my signature a little fancier than this. And since I was 14, I have been signing, like I signed the first letter of my name, like this huge swoop or whatever. And it's as a result of that thought that day, 30 some odd years ago. And the other thing I remember is I'm a huge fan of the library. It's been going ever since I was a kid. I remember going into a library one day, and I'm just looking at the shelves trying to find, some books to check out. And I remember seeing one of the spines, and it had the name J. California Cooper on there. I thought it was just a cool name, so I pulled the book out. And apparently her picture must have been on the back or something, because I remember looking at it and realizing that she was Black. And I was like, oh my goodness, like Black people can write books. And I guess I knew that on some level before, but like seeing it kind of sealed it for me. And I was like, well, if she can write books, that means that I can write books too. So those two things, have stayed with me since I was a little kid. I've had the dream since I was 14, but I didn't actually sit down to write a book until 2004, after I had my daughter. I just remember, after I had her, I wanted to be one of those parents who, rather than just telling my daughter she could do whatever she wanted to do, I wanted to be able to show her that she really could do whatever she wanted to do. So I challenged myself to write a book before she turned a year old. And I finished my first manuscript a month after her first birthday. And once I did that, I challenged myself to land a book deal before she turned 2. And I received the offer for my book, Spin It Like That, 2 months after her second birthday. So it was, from the time I actually started dreaming a dream until the dream was realized, was actually 22 years. But it never would have happened if I would have given up. So that's just always my message to people, to always pursue your dreams and to never, ever give up.
How long does it take you to write a book?
It really depends. I've had, it varies. One of them, I think one of my short stories is called Home for the Holidays. I wrote that in a couple of days. And then one of my other young adult novels, Shine, I worked on it off and on for about 10 years. So it really just depends.
What is your work schedule like when you're writing?
At this point, I call it get it in where I can fit it in. I used to be very rigorous about, I'm gonna get up this time of morning, I'm gonna write for this amount of time or whatever. But life has happened. I work full time now. My daughter is in high school now. I'm married. Like, there's so many other things going on. So there can be like months where I literally go without writing. And then there'll be times where, there'll be months when I just churn stuff out. So it really just depends on what season of life I'm in. Right now, I'm actually editing stuff. Like the last few books that I've released are books that I wrote a couple of years ago. I just did the first draft for them. And I'm just going through the process of doing the edits and stuff to get them ready to get out. So.
What is your work schedule like when you're not writing? I just asked you that, didn't I? My mind is going backwards.
It's okay.
When writing your books, where do you get your information ideas from?
Everywhere. For me, since I write mainly for teens and tweens, I tend to observe them a lot. So I read a lot of books. I probably watch more teenage television than I probably should admit. But I mean, I get joy out of those shows, and my daughter's at the age now where we can watch them together, and I can kind of get her insight into them. I do a lot of visits at schools. So a lot of times, you know, I tell the kids, like, I'll come in and, you know, I'll speak to them, but I kind of sit back and observe, because when they don't realize you're watching them, it's kind of amazing the stuff that you find out.
Yes.
So I do a lot of observing that way. You know, and then a lot of stuff I just Google is one of my best friends, because I research a lot of stuff online. A lot of stuff I write about, I don't necessarily know a whole lot about. Like my book I mentioned earlier, Shine, it's about a female skateboarder. I knew absolutely nothing about the subject before I started. So that was just a matter of Googling stuff and finding out information. So, you know, the information just comes from life mainly, just sitting back and observing.
Okay. What do you do when you're not writing?
I like spending time with my family. I love to eat. So, yeah, I love food. And I watch a lot of television and stuff too. And of course, you know, I love reading. So.
What is your favorite genre to read?
At this point, it's probably Christian fiction. I read a lot of Christian fiction. I read a lot of young adult stuff too. And I love audiobooks. I just discovered audiobooks. I know that's not a genre, but I started listening to them, I want to say about 2 or 3 years ago, because what I noticed is that I couldn't read physical books as much as I wanted to. So I'm like, there has to be a way for me to get more reading done. So I started kind of listening to audiobooks. And last year, for the first time, I set a reading goal. I told myself, well, you know, I'll listen to one audiobook a week. That was my goal. And by the end of the year, I had listened to 150 books.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I love audiobooks. I have, and I told you I'm a fan of the library too. So our library has subscriptions that you can get to, you know, a couple of different places. So I do those. And, you know, I get to read lots of different genres. But at this point, like I said, Christian fiction and young adult are probably still my favorites.
Okay. You mentioned you have been reading audiobooks in the last couple of years. Are any of your books, 16 books, in audio form yet?
They aren't in audio yet. Hopefully it'll happen at some point. That would be great if that did happen, but at this point they are not.
Okay. And how many books did you say you have read, and which one is your favorite?
How many books did I read last year?
Yes.
You were asking. Yes. I read about 150 of them last year. I don't know if there were a couple of books, you know, that I really enjoy. I think I found like a lot of authors and narrators that I like, which made me want to read more or listen to more of their stuff. Toward the end of the year, I read an author, Jacinta Howard. I really enjoy her stuff. She does more new adult stuff, because most of her characters in the books that I read are college age. Okay. But I liked her Prototype series a lot. Who else did I listen to? I listened to a lot of Vanessa Davis Griggs stuff last year. She does Christian fiction. So those are probably the two that I probably read a lot of last year.
What do you think makes a good story?
For me, it's something that's well written, something that's the pacing is really good, that keeps me wanting to turn the pages. Yes. That's something I talk with my clients about a lot. You know, you should, especially like with the beginning and end of chapters, you should end it in such a way that the reader just wants to immediately keep going. You know, I think a lot of readers have had the experience where they're like, okay, I'm gonna read one more page, and then 2 hours later you like still in the book. You know, so that's something that's really important to me, something that's gonna keep the story going, that's gonna keep you moving and just not want to put it down.
How are your characters inspired?
Mainly, I think Well, there are a couple of different ways. One is sometimes they'll just kind of speak to me like, you know, some real weird thing will happen. I'll be like, and a character will kind of pop in my head. Other times they just kind of develop over time, meaning like maybe I'll have an idea for a story and I'll start working on it. And as I'm working on it, the character just kind of grows. And, you know, I may be expecting the character to do one thing. And then as I'm writing, the character will start speaking to me and it's like, no, that's not how this is going to go down. So I have to kind of rewrite and rethink things based on that.
What has been the best way to market your books?
That's something that I'm still learning. It's interesting because I write for teens and tweens, and my first few books were actually just for tweens. When the first book came out in 2007, you know, my thought process was, oh, I need to set up book tours, you know, all around the country. I need to go to all these bookstores and, you know, just get out there. And, you know, after a couple of times where it was like, well, not a couple of times, a few times where maybe like one or two people would show up or, you know, people would stop by and just seeing me stand there, I kind of started rethinking stuff. And one thing I realized is you have to go to where your market is. Most teens and tweens I know don't really go into bookstores, or they didn't at that time. And, you know, most stuff is online now, so it's really totally different. So I had to start asking myself, well, you know, where is it that I can actually meet people to tell them about my books? And I realized I needed to start going to schools and libraries and church, like places where teens actually hung out. And I've kind of used that going forward with my other books, like, you know, whatever my target audience is, where is it that I can find them? Sometimes it might be online. Sometimes it might be, you know, going to different events or whatever. You know, so all of that's important. It's also important to me to kind of work at building a platform, which is part of the reason that I started blogging, to kind of put myself out there more. I recently started doing a YouTube channel called Black Fiction Addiction. Again, those are all ways to get myself out there, so people learn a little more about me, which in turn means they'll learn more about my books.
Okay. How do your family support you as a writer?
Oh, absolutely. I've been very blessed in that regard. My family has always been very supportive. Again, this is something that I wanted to do since I was 14 years old. So, you know, it's not like it's ever been a secret. My family, from the time I was a little girl, I've always been reading. I've always been writing. So this is just a natural part of who I am. You know, if I'm having events, it's not unusual for there to be you know, one or two of my family members in the audience. You know, my husband is always very supportive of me in terms of you know, being there to make sure I have what I need. My daughter is amazingly supportive. I rely on her a lot in terms of you know, whenever I do book events, I don't have to worry about my books being set up. I don't have to worry about drawing people to the table, because she's always been amazing about doing that. At this point, she's read all of my books, so she can tell people about them. She can do whatever needs to be done. So I can just focus on, you know, wearing my author hat and engaging with people in whatever way I need to. So I'm very blessed that I have a very, very supportive, you know, supportive family.
What has been your best accomplishment thus far in the literary industry?
There have been a few of them. One, of course, was getting my first book deal with my book, Spin It Like That. Because for me, it just told me, you know, yeah, people have dreams, but for somebody else to believe in your dream, you know, is really amazing. So to have my first 3 books published with Harlequin, that was amazing. You know, being able to being self-published, the fact that I've published 16 books at this point is beyond crazy. I mean, when I dreamed of writing books as a kid, I don't know that I really had a number in mind. I mean, but I definitely know that I wasn't thinking 16, well, 16 plus, because I have others that I've written that I just haven't published yet. And then one of my novels, it's called Make It Work. It was named Alabama's Great Read in 2017. So I got to go to Washington, D.C. to the National Book Festival to represent the state of Alabama, which that was, pretty amazing. The fact that I had my entire state behind me, and I ended up getting a letter from the president of the University of Alabama, which is where I graduated from, just congratulating me on it. So that was all. That was really cool.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Lord's willing, I'll definitely still be writing. I don't see that not happening anymore. I'm just kind of open. I mean, of course, I have hopes and dreams for what I want to happen, but I'm really just trying to be open to whatever God wants for me. Because what I've learned is, I have all these plans, and what do they say about God laughing at the plans we make? So I've more than anything, I've kind of learned to be open to whatever He wants for me.
Okay. What is your testimony?
I think more than anything that God's fingerprints are absolutely all over my life. Like I said, I've had this dream since I was 14 years old, and the fact that God has blessed my dream to continue to come true is amazing to me. So I think more than anything, from my life, people can see that no matter how crazy your dreams are, that they absolutely can come true. And it doesn't necessarily mean they'll happen overnight. Like I told you, it took 22 years for my dream to come true, but it never would have happened if I would have given up. So that's just my ultimate message to people, to always, always, always pursue your dreams and to never, ever give up.
Yes. Even though this is the beginning of the new year, what literary events do you have planned?
I have a couple of things on my schedule. I know I mainly do stuff locally at this point, because there's so much other stuff going on in my life, and you only have a certain amount of vacation days when you work full time. So I know I have one coming up in February here in Birmingham, and there are a couple of things that I have scheduled for this summer that are like in the local area within driving distance of Birmingham. So those will be on my website, in my event section of my website, so you can check out where you can find me.
Okay. Where can readers find you?
You can find me online if you visit my website, chandrasparksblonde.com. You can find out information about all my books. There are excerpts for all of my books. You can get links to all my blog posts, as well as to the videos from my YouTube channel. So everything you need to find out about me is online, including the links to my social media. I'm pretty active on Facebook and Instagram, definitely. I kind of dabble in Twitter. But if readers reach out to me, I definitely do my best to respond to them.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to say before we close?
Just thank you so much for the opportunity. I really and truly appreciate you reaching out to me and for having me on your show. And again, to readers, you're never too old or too young for your dreams to come true. So never stop dreaming, and always, always pursue your dreams.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in today. And again, this is Queenie Clem. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.